When you think of ironing, you probably think of the hand ironing process where a heated device is moved over cloth for the sole purpose of removing its wrinkles. But have you come across the concept that adding extra pressure onto the fabric, which forces the fibers to lay flat, has the added function of greatly reducing the fabric's ability to trap dust and dirt, allowing clothes to stay cleaner for longer? Nor had I until I started doing some background reading on the history of the mangle. Now, the word mangle can be used to describe two rather different designs. Before the 1600s, the word seems to have first been used to describe a large box press, which was an alternative to using a hand iron for larger household linens such as bedding, curtains, and tablecloth. Though I should probably note that some countries did use a wooden rolling pin type device in conjunction with a wooden board to produce a similar effect, whereby the garments were rolled and flattened without the use of heat. But because of its size and labor-intensive operation, it wasn't a common household item. You were more likely to find them in large, wealthy households or owned by independent washerwomen. The second application of the word mangle comes into play in the mid-1800s, when the washing machine tub that was becoming more popular since its invention over a century beforehand was paired with a hand-cranked pair of rollers, which had the function of forcing water out of fabric, both helping with the expulsion of dirt and facilitating faster drying times. In the post-industrial revolution era, with increased availability of household power and subsequent development of the mangle concept, we fast forward another century to the mid-1900s, where we discover the Ironrite company and its automatic ironing machine, an electric rotating iron or mangle. This Model 88 dates to the 1940s. I have the original manual, which someone's written 1948 on. As with many pieces of antique and vintage equipment of which I am custodian, this was adopted in rather unfortunate condition. What should have been a beautiful walnut case had been painted yellow, and the top had been covered with sticky back liner. The plastic or rubber-coated wiring was cracked, the cloth cord frayed, and the gearing needed considerable cleaning and regreasing. As it sits now, it's not back together yet. The lid was removed to facilitate easier moving into the basement. The paint stripping job still needs to be finished, but it is much better looking than it was. Until the paint stripping is completed, however, the lid will remain detached. As far as the machine itself goes, I covered the roller head with cotton flannel. Under the flannel, a section of cotton batting is rolled around the roller head for a cushioning effect. The metal is painted brown, no, that's not rust, to complement the brown of the walnut case. Underneath of the unit are two knee levers. The left lever pauses the roller's rotation, while the right engages the entire rolling mechanism. The side and front panels fold away in order to allow the lid to be closed fully. The power switches are very simple. Two on-off controls, one for the motor and one for the heating element. The thermostat heating control provides quick reference common fabrics. Design-wise, because the head is separate to the ironing shoe, you can slip items like trouser legs and pillowcases onto either end to give you easy, full rotation ironing. When the heating element is switched on, the indicator light turns on too. Unlike more modern irons, it does not turn off once the target heat has been reached. There is no need to turn on the motor until the ironing element has fully heated, and as the two operate independently, it is a good energy-saving consideration. With the motor on, pressing the lever on the right will simultaneously lower the roller and cause the roller to rotate against the iron shoe. Pressing it a second time stops the rotation and lifts the head. While on, if you press the lever on the left, it will pause the rotation in the down position. So if you have an overly damp or overly wrinkled area that's being stubborn, you can hold it in place between the roller and iron shoe to use the extra heat and pressure to your advantage. If your clothes are dry, it is advisable to spray them with water and allow them to sit for a little while for the moisture to distribute more evenly across the fibres. I find that if I spray my way through an entire ironing load, the first clothes sprayed are ready to be ironed right as I finish spraying the last one. To iron a pillowcase. I must firstly express how much I loathe labels. No matter what material your item is made from, the labels seem to be synthetic, and if not removed or worked around carefully, a nasty melted mess will follow. Be warned. While I could iron the entire case in one pass, I prefer the crisp effect rendered by 3 passes. I start by slipping the opening over the end of the iron shoe, allowing the unit to feed the entire thing through continuously with ease. Then, working down the middle of the case, nearly the entire remaining portion can be ironed. I smooth the fabric on the forming board as I go to ensure that there are no areas of wrinkled fabric. And then I do one final run from side to side, pausing over the edges to ensure that it is pressed thoroughly. For aesthetics, I then fold the case and make one final pass just for the purpose of setting the creases. Onto an 1890s skirt. This skirt is made from an old cotton flannel bedsheet and was a skirt mock-up that I put into use for everyday dirty work jobs. It's covered in stains, so don't look too hard, but the drafting instructions I used for making it are from the late 1800s. First I do the hem. Now, because the sides and back of the skirt have a circular base, I lift the roller periodically to reposition the fabric, pausing over any wrinkled areas which appear as if they may be stubborn. Having 2 hands free, thanks to knee controllers, really does make the job less tedious. With the hemline done, I can now do large sections of this skirt at once, working from the base all the way up to the top. And this is where this machine really comes into its own. I could never do so much at once with a hand iron. If the fabric appears to be bunching up, I simply lift the roller with my knee and smooth everything out before continuing. This skirt has a pleated section at the back, so while I can iron up to the pleats, I will have to iron them separately. There is also a pocket fitted into the opening placket, but ironing that is easy. So far so good, stains and all. For the pleated back, I bring the waistband up to the roller and manually position the pleats on the forming board. Then everything is fed in just to the point that they are set. My 1890s shirtwaist now, which you may remember as the men's shirt that I repurposed last summer. It has hook and eye closures, so care will need to be taken to not allow these to scratch the ironing plate. I start very much as I did with the skirt, from the bottom up. I keep the hook fasteners off the edge of the ironing plate so that they don't scratch it. Because this is a fitted shirtwaist, repositioning is very necessary. But as you can see, the entire back section can nearly be done in a single pass. The front now, where the eye closures are on top, so I don't have to worry about it scratching the plate. followed by the collar. And then the sleeves, pressing the inner arm seam first and working up the length of the arm, adjusting as I go to accommodate the curved shape of the Victorian sleeve. I haven't had any issues with the ironing shoe causing unsightly shininess to my fabric, but I do generally iron with the inside facing down. For the centre front, however, I have no real option but to iron with the face side down. I guess if I were concerned about the shine, I could put an ironing cloth underneath as a barrier, but again, I haven't had any issues in this regard. One final check, and it's ready to be hung up. Ironrites often do come up for sale. They are very heavy and very bulky, so do bear that in mind if you want to get one. And while the lid lifts off, there are screws that attach it down in the back, the wiring means that you cannot easily remove much else when transporting. As a guideline, I paid $20 for mine, which needed only superficial work, by which I mean that I could make all of the repairs without much other than new wires, grease remover, and new grease.